Tim Harrison, who's going to give us a bit of an overview of the launch of the Belfast facility and all the pomp ceremony and excitement that came with that, and a bit of a run through what that means for shareholders and Ionic Rare Earths as a whole. So good morning, Tim. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Peter.
And how was the launch of the Belfast facility? There was some good coverage in the news and you met some royalty.
I did. No, fair to say the welcome mat was well and truly rolled out for us. Tremendous reception in Belfast and the UK. I think we're perfect time to be bringing this, step-changing technology to the wider market, especially the UK, which is very keen to develop recycling and being able to develop that sovereign capability. So I think timing is everything, and I think we found ourselves in the best place at the right time, and tremendous support from all the stakeholders that we've engaged with in the UK.
There was some good coverage. Tell us a bit about the facility, its location, and the area. It's a technology-style park that they have developed there.
Yeah. So where we are with Ionic Technologies in Belfast, the Titanic Quarter, so adjacent to the harbour, and there's quite a bit of obviously historical industry there. With at one point in time, a third of the world's shipmaking was in Belfast. So there's a long history of manufacturing. Obviously, making all those ships that used to make all of the rope and linen for sails and things like that. So Belfast has gone through several cycles over time, whereby it has led the world in manufacturing at some point in particular industries, and continually reimagines itself. And where we are right now, we're positioned in a great location. Policy certainly allows us to, we've got access to dual markets, both the UK and the EU. And yes, there are activities underway to establish a green energy park, which Ionic Technologies will be a key participant.
Well, viewing it from over here on the BBC News and other media, it seemed that the country and the government is right on top of this issue and this industry and understand the significance. So can you provide an overview of the recent partnerships and grants that you've recently announced in the UK for Ionic Technologies, and what do these mean for the business?
Yeah, so the grants that we have been awarded from Innovate UK, which is a branch of the UK government, is really been targeted at developing sovereign capability in particularly magnet, rare earth and magnet production for advanced manufacturing in the UK. That is domestic capability to support UK's requirement for its own energy transition, whether that be new wind turbine capability or electric vehicle manufacturing, plus obviously aspects around national defence. So the grants that we announced in partnership with our supply chain partners that we're working with a metal maker, one of only less than a handful of metal makers that exist outside of China in less common metals. And those that are familiar with the rare earth supply chain know that less common metals plays a very significant role in developing capacity for Western supply chains. So, to have that partnership announced is incredibly important. So we'll produce recycled oxides, which we'll hand over, high purity recycled oxides, which should be noted. We provide that, which will be converted into metals and alloys. And then that material will be handed to a third-party magnet manufacturer who is outside of the UK, not Chinese, to make sintered magnets to be handed then to Ford Technologies, which will be used in the development and evaluation of new e-drives for electric vehicle manufacturing. So the Halewood facility in the UK is projected to make the best part of 500,000 e-drives, and represents a great opportunity for Ionic Technologies and Ionic Rare Earths to start to cement the relationships that we've been building over the last 2 years. So that's one of the grants. The second grant that we've been awarded is a grant to complete a feasibility study on a commercial development in Belfast, whereby we will utilise material information that's going to be provided to us by the British Geological Survey, which has proprietary information in modelling the stocks and flows of magnets coming into the UK, and the projected decommissioning path for material that will be available from end-of-life products in the UK. So that will provide us with scope to understand what the initial potential production looks like, but also what does the growth strategy look like for Ionic Technologies? What does it look like in 5 years, 10 years' time? So that when we do put forward the business case to key stakeholders in the UK, we start to size the plant correctly from the outset of where we think that the initial production should be, but where do we think ultimately commercial production will end up by the end of this decade and beyond.
And Tim, I was watching a video on rare earths end users and the proliferation of the technologies across Europe. It seems a much more common scene over there to see these massive turbines as well across the landscape, whereas in Australia, it's a bit of a shock when we turn the corner on the highway and see a field of these, but it's an established and much more predominant industry over in Europe that must be more front of mind for the industry when they think of the manufacturing, the recycling, and how to manage these assets.
Very much so. I think, getting around Europe and the UK, the adoption and the rollout of electric vehicles and wind turbines is significantly more advanced than certainly we have any comprehension here in Australia. I think Europe has been ahead of the curve in understanding the opportunity that can be unlocked through recycling. If we look at the recent Critical Raw Material Act, that has created a great environment for, I think, Ionic Technologies to be able to thrive in that they've mandated strategic raw materials, of which magnet rare earths is a key component of. They're aiming for 15% of magnet rare earth production to come from recycling by the end of this decade, which creates a huge opportunity for us, given that, if we look at public statements from European Commissioner, President Ursula von der Leyen, projections are that, the demand for rare earths is going to increase fivefold by the end of the decade. That creates a great opportunity for us to be really at the tip of the spear in being able to take advantage of that market, take advantage of the fact that technology is the most advanced on recycling, is producing the highest purity separated oxides. And that's why we've been able to cement these relationships now with metal, alloy, magnet, and ultimately an end user in Ford technology. So the product speaks for itself. The supply chain is very keen to engage with us, and we have been effectively inundated with inbound inquiries that have come since we announced the purity of our products that we produced in a commissioning run back in June. So I think, we're tremendously, we've got a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of being first, being more advanced, and being actively making these magnet rare earths right now at the purities required for the supply chain to grow.
And that seems to be quite clear to me that Europe is ahead of the curve. They usually are in terms of these sorts of technologies. their recycling policies are very strong, and the perceived need for what you're doing is very high. How early is this recycling industry? Is Ionic Technologies a leader? You've effectively injected yourself right into that supply chain, right in the important stage at the beginning of what's going to be a very large industry.
That's exactly right. So what we've done through Ionic Technologies and the importance of Ionic Technologies is it enables us to move without a mine to produce high purity oxides, to develop the relationships with the metal alloy magnet manufacturers and ultimately the end users. So, what we're really targeting is we're targeting the growth that's going to come from the bifurcation of the supply chain. So targeting the markets in Europe, the rest of the world, Japan and Korea, where we can place our product and work with the supply chain on metal and magnet manufacture to then ultimately start to develop the relationships with the end users. Probably fair to say that the end users are, very, very keen to be involved with the opportunity around recycling. It feeds to the nature of sustainability, which all the manufacturers are looking to be more sustainable with everything they do. And, the acceleration that we've been able to achieve with Ionic Technologies means that we can move much faster, independent of permitting and capital risk and technical risk on mine development, to be able to start to sow the seeds for the supply chain to grow. And ultimately, Ionic, with the development of Makuutu, becomes a net beneficiary. So, it's tremendously exciting for the business. The ability to take products from various components or various stages in that value addition. We can take offcuts from metal making and swarf. We can take offcuts from the production of magnets. We can take end-of-life components. We can take magnets that are oxidized or coated. We have so much flexibility in the ability to take products in that really differentiates us from all the other offerings in existence at the moment in magnet recycling.
And not just in magnet recycling too, Tim. I'd imagine if large institutional fund managers looking for exposure across this sector, they'll grab some Linus, of course, because they're a global leader and dominate the market. But then they'll be looking at what else can we get involved in that has growth. And as you said, you've de-risked Ionic here by actually moving straight into production of the rare earth oxides without all the permitting and the timeline that will take many others to achieve.
That's right. I think what we've done is we've accelerated everything with regards to our ability to participate in these new emerging supply chains. We are producing high purity oxides. And if we look at our peers, although it's only in small volumes, we are doing it. And so, I think that's tremendously important for our supply chain partners to actually have a product to be able to move forward with now, so that they can develop the capacity that they need to develop outside of existing supply chains to be able to work towards the targets that companies and governments have set to start to bifurcate from existing sources.
And Tim, it leads on to the question here about the capacity of the Belfast facility, that given that you're producing at a pilot stage at this moment. What is the capacity? When do you see yourselves hitting that? And what sort of revenues should we be thinking about when we see you at full rate?
Yeah, look, so with regards to the demonstration plant has really been targeted around making product for our supply chain, more so than making product to sell. We anticipate that on the back of the demonstration plant, we will be armed with all of the information that's technically de-risked in commercial development. And so, we are planning the capacity of the circuit as the capacity to process 30 tonnes of magnets per annum to produce 10 tonnes of oxides. Since our initial commissioning run, we're in there actually updating a control system at the moment. We're replacing a filter. So we're continuing to learn and optimise the equipment that we've deployed in the flow sheet. And the plan is that we really start ramping up this demonstration plant from November onwards, and that's when we start to produce significant amounts of material, so that we can actually start to turn and produce the metal, the magnets, the products for LCM, Ford Technologies, plus potentially other groups that we're in discussions with now about demonstrating what does recycled material look like in their supply chain, who are the participants that are going to produce the products, the specifications required to compete on product quality with existing supply chains. And through that, we'll start to be able to announce the relationships that we'll have with ultimately end customers who are looking for this material to go into their overall production ambitions and where they're sourcing material from long term. So yeah, it's tremendously exciting. That data all flows into what will be a feasibility study, which we're targeting to have completed mid next year. And so at that point, we'll really understand what the overall growth strategy of Ionic Technologies is going to look like in Belfast.
And Tim, I imagine that once you've secured some of those customers, testing the demonstration plant material, and then progressing that supply and those relationships, then they would lead into offtakes, and those offtakes would then lead into funding security.
Correct. So everything is about demonstrating quality, demonstrating reproducibility, demonstrating cost, demonstrating optimization. All of those things come with the operation of the demonstration plant. So the demonstration plant for us is incredibly important. Demonstration plant also provides the opportunity for our supply chain partners to come in, understand what we're doing, understand how we're able to do this, so that they can go away with confidence and understand how they can integrate the potential product that will come from Ionic Technologies into their overall ambitions to decouple to some extent.
And further to the demonstration plant and the growth from there, what's the appeal of the potential commercialisation of this technology in Belfast, and then potentially growing and potentially replicating these facilities? And soon we'll have Ionic Technology recycling plants on every continent.
Yeah, look, so Belfast is a tremendously it's a tremendous location for us. Obviously, technically competent people, so extremely good education, great support from Queen's University Belfast, but beyond that, there's other institutions there, and Ulster University and Belfast Metropolitan College, whereby we can start to build a talent pool to take the technology forward. Belfast Harbour itself is a deep water harbour that has the infrastructure to be able to support the commercial rollout of offshore wind, but also importantly, receive decommissioned wind turbines. So, as you drive out to Ionic Technologies facility, within 500 metres, you can visibly see the large turbines being collected, refurbished, and materials that are going back out to sea, and materials coming back in. So it will be a hub for the deployment and the decommissioning of offshore wind. If we look at policy in Northern Ireland benefits from effectively where conditions are post-Brexit, in that through the Windsor framework, Northern Ireland has the ability to participate in EU markets. So that provides the opportunity to develop technology in Belfast with dual market access across both UK and Europe. And with the Atlantic Declaration underway, we anticipate soon the ability to also work closely with supply chain partners in the US, all out of Belfast. Belfast also has a number of other industries that are going to be consumers of magnet rare earths. And if we look at the ability to source materials from Great Britain and Northern Ireland, We also have the ability to source materials from the Republic of Ireland. Realistically, I mean, we've been blown away by the potential opportunity to get access to materials across those markets. It's tremendously exciting, and walking away, leaving the UK last week, collectively, myself and the rest of the team are very excited by the opportunity that we find ourselves in now with Belfast. It's going to be a very interesting and very exciting 9 to 12 months ahead.
And I suppose, well, I'm sure more detail will emerge with the completed feasibility study. But with respect to that demand and the opportunity in the market, how do you, or can you discuss the scalability of the technology and being able to replicate your facility, more broadly?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been evaluating internal studies at the moment, which give us an understanding of what scale of capacity should we be looking at. So we've been working on this for the last 6 to 9 months to help us understand what is the point at which commercialization of the technology really starts to shine. We've got some data around that which we're still working on, but also the engagement from the supply chain. A lot of the data that we're determining ourselves around commercial viability is aligning with the numbers and the work that's been done with a number of our supply chain partners. So we know that we're exactly on the right track. We anticipate that over the course of the next 9 months, we'll have that feasibility study completed, which will give us an opportunity to be able to shed the light on what we see this as being a tremendously value accretive opportunity for Ionic Rare Earths. The ability to produce oxides, the ability to be able to develop a commercial facility, and targeting payback, which would be potentially, within 2 to 3 years, means that we can develop not only this facility, but we can look at then the modularization and cookie cutter approach, the ability to roll this out across key markets, which we're also identifying. There's nothing overly complex about what it is we're doing. We can replicate pretty much anywhere, provided we've got the right inputs. And that's really the work the team is doing now to work out where do we sit, how do we make it better.
Thanks, Tim. I think that viewers, shareholders, those interested in the company can now understand that the establishment of Belfast and the demonstration plant being active is testament to years of engagement with your stakeholders, supply chain partners. There are a lot of companies now with rare earths discoveries that have a lot of engagement and a lot of work to do, and you've certainly worn those pathways well to get to where we are today. So that's a great coverage for us on Belfast. I'm going to move across to Makuutu because we were excited to see the minister from Uganda at Africa Down Under recently tell us not only about her family that she's been missing in her travels, but also that she is well aware that your mining license is sitting on her desk, and she was keen to address that the moment she got home. Can you give us a bit of an overview about where that sits right now?
Well, I can confirm the minister is back. We are in dialogue, and we're expecting that we'll have news on this shortly. We expect that we're able to move forward relatively quickly, and so I can appreciate everybody is anxious. I can tell you they're probably not as anxious as I am, but I just want this thing done, and expecting it very shortly.
And it will be hotly anticipated. Mining licenses, permitting, those are things which are holding up many projects around the world at the moment. So I think we'll understand that you're just on the cusp now of getting that grant, and we're looking forward to that. Ionic Rare Earths currently owns 60% of Makuutu through Rwenzori Rare Metals. What's the scope to increase your ownership, and can provide any updates on the potential Ugandan government target stake and other support that you are aware that the Ugandans might bring to the table?
Yeah, look, so we own 60% of Makuutu. Makuutu is owned by a private Ugandan company called Rwenzori Rare Metals. So our 60% is Rwenzori Rare Metals. We have a very good relationship with our partners in Rwenzori. And we've been discussing the overall development of the project for over 12 months and how we take the project forward. I think, discussions continue and hopefully, we are able to increase our stake in the project soon. We will be, attending the Ugandan Mineral Wealth Conference in late October. And again, there to engage with our stakeholders and work through the overall development strategy of the project, provide an update to key stakeholders there in Uganda who've offered their support in helping us advance Makuutu towards production. Given that it's got flagship status within Uganda, it is seen as very, very important to the development of the mining industry in Uganda. And as such, we've got the full support of the government on the development of the project. With regards to the potential for a Ugandan government stake, that is a discussion that will be initiated post mining license award. The discussions up to this point are that we, on the back of the approved 2022 Ugandan Mining Act, there is provision for up to 15% Ugandan government ownership. However, our discussions around that are that given both tax and royalties, these are negotiable, and government in Uganda needs to and understands that in order for us to develop the project, we have to be able to provide a return to shareholders. We need to be able to repay capital, and at a certain point in time, obviously Uganda can start to share from the ownership and the benefits of the project. So those discussions we anticipate will kick off very shortly on receipt of the mining license. We've been preparing an understanding of what we think would work for us, and we'll be ready to engage with the Ugandan government very shortly on that.
And there's been a lot of work undertaken on the ground over the last couple of years in preparation. With the mining license granted, what would be your aspirational view for development schedule?
So right now we are progressing, obviously, the development of a demonstration plant in Uganda. We anticipate producing mixed rare earth carbonate this year. Producing that mixed rare earth carbonate is going to be important for our supply chain partners and where that product potentially goes. So, the ability to work through final investment decisions is going to require, obviously, successful outcome of the demonstration plant, commitment of the product to a supply chain, and then working through the financing. In my opinion, committing the product to a supply chain then creates the opportunity for the strategic funds to come in from that jurisdiction, because there are a number of government funds that have been set up in order to secure the materials, secure the feedstock to develop the processing of rare earths for their jurisdiction. So, we are engaged with several groups on this that have indicated their desire to get access to the magnet heavy rare earth product that would come out of Makuutu. And right now we're working through what is the mechanism under which that material would be processed, noting that we are conscious in trying to make sure that we have the most flexibility for the development of a larger Makuutu by trying to look at processing, so separation, refining, metal alloy manufacturing, all outside of China. So it's reasonably well advanced, and we hope to be able to talk about that shortly.
And Tim, on that potential development and the testing from demonstration plant material, Do you foresee offtake partners cornerstoning some of the capital required?
I do see the ability for strategic funds to come in to put their foot on the product, because simply put, there is no advanced manufacturing without the feed molecules. If we look at Makuutu's role in developing supply of heavy rare earths, specifically dysprosium and terbium, to facilitate the development of sintered magnets for electric vehicles and wind turbines, then Makuutu is in a very unique position in that it is the most advanced ionic absorption clay project outside of China and Myanmar that as yet does not have its product committed to China. So if we look at the importance of Makuutu, it is a very strategic project in being able to facilitate new supply chains emerging in Europe and the US, for example.
And we're well aware at the moment in Australia of lots of rare earths projects, exploration, some good results around the globe. Makuutu at the moment it was safe to say, is a leader in this global race to get into development stage and become an operating project. Can you give us a bit of an overview for new shareholders or those that need a bit of education, the product that you're looking to produce, the target assemblage of lights versus heavies, and where Makuutu sits in potential to other Western projects that are looking to fill this demand?
Yeah, so I mean, the big appeal for Makuutu is the proportion of both magnet and heavy rare earths. So when we talk about magnet rare earths, the elements that we're really talking about are praseodymium, neodymium. So a lot of investors will be familiar with NdPr, right? NdPr represents about 50% of the revenue of the basket from Makuutu. What's quite often overlooked is the requirement for both dysprosium and terbium. So dysprosium and terbium are heavy rare earths. 98% of the world's current supply comes from China and Myanmar. It comes from similar deposits to the ionic absorption clays of southern China and Myanmar, so similar deposits in Makuutu. And so, the importance of bringing on new supply of dysprosium and terbium is incredibly important for the development of sintered magnets for the application in EVs and wind turbines. What Makuutu also has is it has the ratio of magnet rare earths in about the right ratio in order to develop sintered magnets. And beyond that, we also produce, and we have about another 10% of our basket being additional magnet rare earths. Now, these are rare earths that go into other magnets such as samarium, cobalt, but also importantly, gadolinium and holmium. Gadolinium and holmium can be used in substitution for dysprosium and terbium to some degree. And certainly the work that we've done with Ionic Technologies, we understand the roles in which the full spectrum of magnet rare earths have been used in different applications. And that gives us a lot of confidence in our thoughts about the importance that Makuutu plays in developing ex-China sourcing. Beyond that, there's a suite of other rare earths that we produce, heavy rare earths that will find a natural home in key geopolitical industries, specifically military defense. So we see ourselves perfectly aligned and leveraged to the geopolitical climate in providing, secure, sustainable, traceable, non-Chinese magnet and heavy rare earths.
Thanks, Tim. Pretty good education there for those of us who are constantly bewildered by the changing landscape of what we're seeing in the rare earths industry and what needs to be supplied and where you sit. So for shareholders, what can we expect to see of the rest of 2023, and what do you see shaping up in the year ahead in 2024?
So I think 3 months to go, pretty much for 2023. Mining license we expect very shortly. I hate using the word imminent, but I'm simply passing on the words I'm hearing out of Uganda.
And the minister's on tape too, Tim. I've got it recorded.
That's okay. I've also I've had follow up just to reiterate that we're very keen on the support that we publicly received. We've got exploration continuing at Makuutu, so we recently announced the first tranche of the RAB drilling out to the east, which has basically confirmed that eastern tenement is a mammoth potential opportunity for us. We're awaiting the release of the second tranche, which is up to the northwest, which is a new tenement where we haven't drilled previously. So that'll give us a bit of an idea of what the potential may be out there. We'll also initiate some test work on those areas, which will help us understand how quickly we look at developing and drilling out those potential exploration targets. We will update the exploration target once those assays come in and we're armed with more information. We've also got infill drilling on the Makuutu Western Zone, which will be likely the next area that progresses towards a mining license. So we've got a significant number of holes that we're drilling there to increase the existing inferred resource to an indicated resource to support that next feasibility study. We've recently announced the appointment of DRA and DRA Global, and so we're working now on advancing the project towards a holistic understanding of how we develop a much larger Makuutu project. And strategic partnering will continue. I mean, we continue to build the team to support the inbound inquiry around this. And, with the production of mixed rare earth carbonate later this year, we'll be in a position to potentially also commit our product to supply chain. And that then creates the avenue for us to look at getting that funding requirement to get Makuutu to production.
Thanks, Tim. Oh, sorry.
And then we've got Ionic Technologies, which I think is has got so much upside, it's not funny. So tremendously excited about the developments that will happen there over the course of the next 12 months.
Thanks, Tim. I was going to say, well, congratulations on being the latest actual producer of product in the rare earths industry. They're probably very few and far between, and you've done it fairly smoothly through the Belfast facility. We watched the process line. It took many years and lots of money to get there. You've jumped onto the supply chain halfway through pretty smoothly with some great pomp and ceremony in the UK. So that's great for shareholders to see. Look, I think any final message for shareholders?
I think just your last comment there, Peter. We've been able to do this very, very quickly because with Ionic Technologies, because we don't have the permitting risk, we don't have the scale-up risk, we don't have the complexity around the process conditions that a lot of the hard rock projects will face in developing, cracking, leaching, separation. We've been able to do this pretty much in a 9-month window from when we got our mining license. So tremendously excited by the progress we anticipate to have over the next 12 months with Ionic Tech, and then the support that we're going to get from key stakeholders in the UK and the potential to roll this technology out globally. And then you've got the opportunity with Makuutu, which will be the net beneficiary of the relationships that we're building on the products we're making now.
Fantastic, Tim. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to the year ahead. It's going to be very exciting, and I know you're going to be very busy. So thank you for joining us and giving this overview this morning. Thanks to our audience for attending. We hope we covered most of your questions. If you had any specific ones, please send them through to Peter at nwrcommunications.com.au or through to Ionic, and Tim will look forward to answering those for you. So we'll wind this up and say thank you very much, everybody, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon, Tim.
Thank you.